Welcome back to Dance Studio Owner Life Coaching. This is Ginger, and today I want to talk to you about your identity catching up to your goals. The reason why this is important is because so many times in life, we have a goal, and the goal seems so far out of reach that it almost seems impossible, that it's just a dream. There's times when what we want seems so far disconnected from where we are. And the gap oftentimes is our identity and how we identify with ourselves. You see, if you think about when you first started your studio in year one, and the person that you were, and then consider who you are now, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years later, you are a different person. Your identity has changed over time, over those years. And what is here now is a newer version of you. Where you are right now, your current identity will change as you move towards this new goal. The reason why this is so difficult for us is because sometimes when we think about reaching a new goal, whether it's about income or being debt free or number of students or hiring staff people, when we think about those things, we recognize that we are not the person yet that has made those changes. We are not the person yet that is enjoying the benefits of having obtained that level in business. We are not yet that person. And what happens is we have this disconnect from who we are and who we need to be for us to reach that goal. So if we think about it, one of the things I do with most of my coaching clients at some point or another is we talk about how do you envision a strong, savvy female business owner, or how do you imagine a CEO of a dance business? What kind of qualities and characteristics do you envision of a strong, a powerful, a smart, a business savvy, a financially literate business person? And so my clients, they go and start writing their list or telling me item by item things that this person must embody, how they envision this person is. And then I go deeper and I say, what does this awesome CEO do? What are their daily habits? What do they eat? How do they treat their body? How do they care for themselves? When they do this exercise, they've got to list all the things. What is this person in the community? What is this person with their spouse? How do they interact? How is this person defined in your mind? And then here comes the moment where I ask my client to realize that the person they've described is their future self. That's often met with some resistance, like, oh gosh, that could never be me, or oh my goodness, I don't see how that could be me. I don't think I'll do that. Maybe there's no way. And that, my friends, that disconnect thereof, that's not me. That could never be me. That is that disconnect between the identity and the goals. When we identify as something or someone that is not at that level, then it holds us in a same holding pattern of where we have been for the last year, for the last month, for the last 6 weeks. This is what holds us back. Because if we cannot identify with the person who makes decisions that way, who spends and raises money that way, who has such and such size of a business, student body revenue, we can't identify with that person, then we simply do not believe that it can be. And if we don't believe that it can be, then we are not going to put in the effort to make it so. We just don't do it. So, how do we change this? How do we look at that identity? The first thing that you can do is to make note of how you identify now. How do you identify? How do you refer to yourself? What do you say about yourself? What do you say about your current state on a regular basis to yourself, to your friends, to your family? How do you describe yourself? How do you look at yourself? How do you treat yourself? Will tell you about your identity and what it is that you think you are and who you are. So, if, for example, you identify as a hot mess, you identify as the hot mess who sort of has their hair done when they show up to the studio, the hot mess who's still wearing these darn leggings that they wish, goodness, I need to get new leggings, but I can't really afford it, so these will be fine. If you identify as the hot mess who's not really gotten enough sleep and they're just barely getting by, if you're identifying as a hot mess and going so far as to call yourself a hot mess, when you say to your friends, I'm a hot mess, when you embrace the hot mess, when you run late to things as a hot mess, when you don't really put in all the effort that you could, when you are fully in that hot mess identity and you believe that that's what you are, then you're not going to do these things of that powerful CEO. So what can you do if you are identifying as a hot mess? What if the next time you say, "Oh my gosh, I'm such a hot mess," you pause for a moment and say, "That's interesting. I'm choosing to identify myself as a hot mess." What if you just note that this is what you're saying to yourself? What if you jot it down, make a tick mark on a little sticky note? Notice the times that you identify yourself as a hot mess. Notice the times when you're saying something to yourself from that place of feeling like a hot mess. Once you start to step back and realize that you're saying it, it's going to do a couple of things. The first, you're going to realize how often you're saying it, how often it's coming up, how often that thought enters your mind. And two, when you separate out yourself from what you've been saying that you are, you slowly start to unravel those thoughts that you are, in fact, a hot mess. You'll start to form a new identity. People also do this with saying that they're tired. I'm exhausted. I'm just struggling. I'm surviving. That's what I hear a lot. And what then happens is they come from a place of saying, I'm always tired. I'm exhausted. I'm just exhausted. I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time. I just can't. I'm overwhelmed. If you say that again and again and again, then my friends, remember that a thought that you keep repeating becomes a belief. If you continue to tell yourself that you're constantly tired and overwhelmed, then you believe that. So much so that you will believe that you are exhausted and tired and can't function even when you've been rested. This is what happens when we allow these thoughts to go unchecked. So the criticism is not on the fact that you are saying these things to yourself, because my friends, every single person has these thoughts that creep into their mind. This just happens to everyone, right? Everyone has these thoughts where they start to identify as something else out of habit. But the thing is, if you take a moment to say, wait a second, no, I'm not. Not right now. Right now, I feel okay. Today I got up and I took care of stuff and I showered and I was ready and I went to work and I got there early and I felt like I have things in order and I'm organized. You start to change that identity. When you start to change that identity, when you offer different thoughts to yourself, when you say, I am in charge, I'm a director, when you say, I'm the owner of this business and I have work to do, when you say different things to yourself, you will start to believe it. The same way that hot mess and I'm exhausted has entered your mind as a belief, that can also be changed to say, that is my future self. I am the strong, smart, financially savvy CEO. I'm on my way to becoming that person. I am that person now, and it's just a different version of me, version 4.0. Then you're able to take action because you are dismantling the beliefs that have been holding you back. If you, for example, believe that you're just in the struggle, you were always in the struggle and you will always be in the struggle, then you will not take action to get out of it. It is when you stop and listen to the thoughts that have been creeping in and day out, those fears and anxieties and all these things that come with that. When you take a moment to say, wait a second, what am I saying? I might have a hard time today, this week, this month, but that is not who I am. I am not these issues that I am going through, the waters that I'm wading in right now. I am not that. That is a circumstance that I'm currently in. It is not who I am. I identify as a business owner. I identify as a CEO. I see myself as someone who is working to improve my business. I am someone who can make a change. I am someone who can raise my prices. I am someone who can charge for things and know my worth. I am someone who is on their way to the next greatest thing. When you have those thoughts recurring in your head day after day, time after time, even if you don't believe it yet, that will change over time. And when it changes, boy, you are going to see a difference. Friends, I encourage you to examine your goals. Those goals that you wrote down in 2023, those goals you wrote in 2020. When you look at those things, are there things that you have not attained yet because of an identity gap? Go back, look in your journal. Look at what you posted online. Look at your notes from that conference or that webinar. Where is there an identity gap? And then work on filtering those thoughts. And every time you hear those thoughts appearing in your head, jot it down, make a note of it. Know that you can dismantle this thought pattern that has been holding you back from taking action towards that next thing. It's simple, but it is not easy. And I encourage you to give it a try this week. Here in the US, we're approaching spring break time and people are planning time off with their families or kids. And during that time is a great time when things are quiet and maybe the studio is closed for a week to just listen to those thoughts that are creeping into your head without all the noise of the usual season. Go ahead and take a moment and just think about and notice. How do you describe yourself? What do you say about yourself? What do you say to yourself? And how do you talk about yourself to the other people? And you will find where those identity gaps are. Now, if this is something you want to explore more in depth, I invite you to hop on a discovery call with me. We'll go through figuring out how to get you out of these patterns that are holding you back. I invite you to explore one-on-one coaching. When you do that discovery call, it will be with me one-on-one for 15 minutes, no pressure, nothing to prepare. I will talk to you, learn more about you and your business, where you want to be, and how I can help you. .com/coaching, and we will get started right away. Until next time, I wish you the best.